I think Evergold's still got a pretty decent capital structure. I've seen companies, if you go out to Australia, they come to market with these god-awful number of shares outright. That's not us by any means. So again, I really hope to get this stock well north of $1, $2 this summer if we can really deliver some gangbuster results out of these properties. And I think that potential is very real.
So thanks again for tuning in. I'm sitting down with Kevin Keough, CEO of Evergold Corp. Kevin, Happy New Year to you. It's been about a month since we last spoke. How are you holding up so far?
Oh, holding up pretty well, John. It's a beautiful sunny day out there at the minute, and it's easy to do business from an office like this when the sky is blue and the snow on the ground. So yes, and it's early in the new year too, so that's always an optimistic time.
Yeah, and you're managing to stay warm?
Yes, in fact, we just added a lot of insulation to this place. So yes, we are. I hope everybody else is too as well. I see they got snow down in Arizona in the last day or so, right? So
crazy weather. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you mentioned it. It is, it's obviously a new year. How maybe a good place to start is, looking at where the company's at right now at the start of 2021 versus where you were at the start of 2020. How are you feeling about things?
As I mentioned before, a new year is always a time for renewed optimism. And I think we're really well positioned at this point in this particular new year because we know a lot more about our key prospects now than we did at this time last year. So last year, this time, we had not long before come out of our initial public offering. We're getting ready for our first drill season. Of course, we're really hoping to really hit it last summer with results that really got us going, got our share price up. I think there was a lot of anticipation in the first half of last year. We did trend up nicely, but we didn't get the blowout results that we were looking for in the summer. And I think personally, we all feel as a team actually that we got really close on both the Golden Lion and Snowball properties, but for a number of reasons, we didn't quite get there. Now, January 2021, we feel we're just on the cusp of achieving much better results this year in the forthcoming season than we were able to achieve last year. And there's some good reasons for that. We can talk about those if you want.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah. I think that's a great segue to let's talk about, just recently you put out Golden Lion, the last kind of holes at Golden Lion, I believe. I don't think there's any more coming, are there?
Not, well, with one exception, we can talk about that. But yes, the bulk of the results are out for Golden Lion now.
Okay. So, these are some of the, the slides from your Golden Lion press release. So what would you, encourage investors to focus on, I guess, based on the information you gather?
Well, last year we set out at the beginning of the summer, we had a rather broad brushed approach, right, for our first phase of work at Golden Lion. We tested not only the GL1 main zone that you see there on this particular slide, but we also tested a number of regional targets. And we did work across a broad area of the property, GL1, GL2, and GL3, because we really didn't know where we'd get the best traction. Obviously, this property's got really fine geochemistry over a lot of it. And so it's a little, when you're new to drilling a property, you just are never quite sure what you've got to do or where you've got to go precisely. So we did the work we did. And of course, the upshot of that was that the GL1 main zone, the historically known zone, was really where we got the best traction in the drilling. And we circled back rather, to GL1 main late in the summer and did a lot more geophysics there because of what we were seeing in the drilling there. And I think what the really material outcome for investors, the key takeaway from GL1 Main right now is that we have a really big gold zone there. It is, as we mentioned in the last news release, it's over 800 meters long, John, and that's a drilled length. That combines historical Newmont drilling with our own. So there's a large gold zone there, low grade, and it's sitting right on surface. What's to be excited about is the fact that our detailed geophysics there demonstrated that we've got a very lovely looking chargeability and resistivity anomaly. You can see it here on slide 3, just below where we and Newmont were drilling. So we know it's an epithermal system. That target presumably indicates stronger mineralization, and it's contiguous with, i.e. it's not a sort of, there's no major break between our drilling and it. It's kind of a gradual increase pickup. That's clearly a very hot looking target for the pending season. So key takeaway at Golden Lion is we've got that big gold zone on surface, drilled. It appears to be the halo or sitting on top of something much better. And we'll get to drilling that this summer.
So in terms of the holes that you reported, I believe there were 4 new ones in this news release. Did any of the results, did the results come in more or less in line with your expectations based on what you had already drilled at some of the, the previously reported holes?
Oh, yes, exactly in line. I mean, I think I told people I predicted they would be consistent because there is a lot of consistency both in the work Newmont did and our own hole to hole here. It's a broad zone. I think another point I do mention to people, if you examine those sections, and as we pointed out in the news releases, all of these holes collar in mineralization, i.e. we set up on top of it. And we're not truly sure how wide the whole system is, but even on these sections, if you look at the scale bars, you'll see that from where the holes actually bottom, or from where the last hits are in these holes, left, right, it's 150 meters in width. And it could well be actually, well, I have to watch what I say because we're not sure, but it could well be extending west where you see the target. And of course, it could actually go further to the east. It's clearly open down dip as well. So the point is, though, in the early going here, it's been drilled with multiple holes along a long strike length, and it's shallow. This material is sitting on surface. And it's not that different, our recent drill intercepts, John, from what Benchmark has delivered. If you go look at their recent intercepts, the talk 100 meters of 0.8 grams, this kind of thing. The point is, this starts to look like potentially bulk tonnage style material, i.e. potentially open pitable material. A lot more work to be done, but it's worthwhile also noting that within that those broad low-grade intercepts, we're getting high grades, or I shouldn't call them high yet, they are higher grades. And I'm talking, multiple meters of 2, 3 grams, 10, 20 meters, that kind of thing, individual meter intercepts of plus 5, 6 grams, that sort of thing. So if this is just the top of the system, and it does intensify below as the geophysics suggests it does, then we can speculate that the grades are also going to go up as we go deeper.
Okay. So I know in our last interview, I asked you this question, and I suspect it's probably still too early, but does this extra information provide you, enough guidance as a team to know exactly where you're going to drill in the spring, or is that?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so now you know where you want to drill.
Yes, exactly. We'll be targeting this target that you see exactly on slide 3 here. That will be targeted with at least a couple of drill pads. We haven't quite finalized all our plans there. We're doing some more modeling as well. We may step out a bit along strike. And maybe I should talk a bit about hole 4. You asked before whether all our results are back, actually, drill results from up there. And there's one hole outstanding. That's hole number 4. I don't know if you have a plan view, John. Do you have one up on? But if we look at a plan view of the GL1 target area there.
I could try and find it in this one.
Yeah, let's just find a plan view. This is Rockland, so we'll have to go back. I'll click back here. The reason this is important, I will find GL1 North Ridge was a target, part of the GL1 target area that we developed ourselves from geochemistry. It's about 800 meters north of GL1 main, and it's a very sweet looking target in terms of soil geochemistry. We did put one hole into it last season, hole number 4. And basically, the market knows we had a lot of struggles with assays. The lab struggled with that one too. It was not assigned a priority because we had a lot of other things going on. And in fact, it's been sampled, but not yet assayed. And we're not sure when it's going to get assayed at this rate, but it'll be some point this year. The reason it's potentially significant, the results of that hole, is because we went back in November or September rather, and we did a lot of additional soil geochemistry sampling on GL1 North Ridge. And it really is a strong looking golden soil anomaly. So whereas in the past we'd only sampled along the ridge line, now we sample down both ways, and all of those results look strong. I mean, we're getting up to 15 grams per ton of gold in proper soils, right? It's actually grass covered up there. So there's something significant going on there. And we also sampled along that ridge, and it appears it could be an entirely new structure, high grade, parallel to the GL1 main zone. So we may have actually hit it with that hole. I'm talking about long intercept of perhaps bulk tonnage style, perhaps better. With grades like that in soil, you know something's going on. We may not have drilled it the right way with hole 4. All of this is to be determined, but that hole alone in our soil geochemistry sampling indicates we've got potentially much greater zone even than the big GL1 main zone, which is itself over 800 meters now, drilled length. This is just to the north. It appears to have, in many respects, better gold values in the soil than GL1 main did. So that's something to be excited about. It's very real, and we've already got some of that work done. So stay tuned about that. It'll probably be months before we have those assays, though.
Months just to get that single assay for that hole?
Yes, it's because the sample results are still up on site.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the samples, the hole has been cut, samples bagged. It's just not been assayed yet. So.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Let's maybe pivot to Rockland, because that was another new piece of news. Mm-hmm. That came to be since we last talked.
And Rockland is exciting.
Yeah, so I'm curious on this one. You're probably one of the most busy CEOs I know. Both professionally and personally. You just needed that much more work, right?
People asked where it came from. Funny, we were not looking for this property, right? I don't know if I mentioned this to you in the past. I know I've mentioned it, but Charlie Gregg was down in Nevada in November. And he was down there investigating properties for another company. One of our directors, Darwin Green, who heads up High Gold, Darwin knew, as it happened, had gone skiing with the vendor for this property, and mentioned the property as one he personally really liked from his knowledge of it through this vendor, and suggested Charlie go take a look at it while he was down there. So he did, and Charlie really liked it too. And so it developed quite quickly. We literally did the deal, at the end of December. But it's very, very complementary. We don't have to spend a lot of money on it this year, which is important to note. So the focus this summer will be Snoball and Golden Lion, where we think we can deliver great results from both. This, though, is really complementary. The main reason we picked it up, make no mistake, is because of its drilling potential, its potential to really deliver something significant. That yellow strip of ground you see on the plan view of Nevada, that's the so-called Walker Lane. Yeah. Up to the northwest there, or northeast rather, these trends, Geochemistry and the Carlin trend, those are the better known trends. But this Walker Lane is developing into a hotspot now. It's actually a structural corridor. There's been a lot of separation of the crust movement. And it's known for high grade, historically for bonanza grade, they call it in the States bonanza grade, epithermal systems. So the system types are generally very similar to those that we have at Snoball and Golden Lion. Those are both epithermal too. What's really exciting about the new Rockland property is on the western half of it, or western side of it, we have an old high-grade producer, past producing mine. Wasn't a big producer, but it produced genuine high-grade material between about 1870 and 1930, cowboy days. And on the eastern side, we call it Rockland East, we think we've got an entirely preserved epithermal system of the high-grade style. Here you go in slide 20 here. Now, if we compare this with Golden Lion, I mentioned before Golden Lion has a gold zone drilled on surface, which is over 800 meters long. And we think Golden Lion sits on top of something better. Well, we have exactly the same thing here. And ironically, it's 800 meters too.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities.
Yes, a lot of that drilling here was done by BHP and Romarco. So this property had work over the years, just as Golden Lion did. But that zone you're looking at there, John, it's really a wide zone. It's a couple hundred meters wide and it's long. And we think it represents the halo over an intact high-grade epithermal system. So of the Midas style, you might have heard Midas talked about. Of course, it's a famous mine in Nevada. Generally, with these sorts of epithermal stories, you have a halo over top of enhanced pathfinder minerals, trace elements, not minerals, but trace elements, arsenopyrite, antimony, that kind of thing. You get that distal to the best of the system. And what's interesting about this zone here at Rockland is it's got a lot of gold in it too. That broad zone it's enhanced arsenopyrite, antimony, but it's got quite a bit of gold. And it tends to be, if you go to the section view, yes, this is I don't know if we can zoom in on that, John. But
unfortunately, we can't.
No. Well, if you examine that closely in any event, you'll see it's like, I think there over on the right, you can see the meters here on the right side, 100 meters, right? That's, 150 to 200 meters wide there. And what you tend to have in that low grade zone, and in this case, it's not sitting right on surface, it's down a bit, but it's wide and it's long. And it encompasses narrow, structurally focused gold as well as these broad, much broader intercepts of brecciated material that's also carrying value. And that's always good to see, because it's much easier to develop a target that's got broad intercept widths than it is to develop a really narrow vein structure. And you can see, again, it is rather difficult on this particular section, but and many of these intercepts here are in feet. But we're talking about, hundreds of feet of bulk tonnage material encompassing strong grades. You're getting 10, 20 grams per ton of material in narrow intercepts encompassed by these wider brecciated zones. So we think, with a little luck, that we have below it the so-called boiling zone. And the boiling zone just refers to the kind of temperature and pressure conditions you typically need to have in these systems in order to deposit gold, especially out of the liquids that, or the fluids that are carrying it. So there tends to be, like there was at Midas and Bodie and a bunch of these other high-grade systems down there, tends to be several hundred meters below the halo where you get really rich grades. So I think I'd like investors to understand Rockland as a high-grade play. That's what we're really looking for there, is high-grade Midas style, call it bonanza style if you wish. That's not a term we use in the press releases, but that's how they refer to it commonly. Gold with a lot of silver potentially as well. Now that's Rockland East. As I mentioned, at Rockland West, if we look at the slide for Rockland West, the section there, that's a plan view here, slide 24. Just to give you an idea there, you can see all of those values scattered around. The green are the adits, the development underground. And it was all sampled by BHP back in the 80s. So all those values are by BHP, and they're all in ppb, and basically they're all running tens of grams of meters, tens of grams of gold per ton, right? There's 75, 82, 19, 33, 32. It's very consistently high grade. They were taking the vein, basically, the core of the vein. If we go to the section view, though, you will see that surrounding those high-grade veins, so this is the section view 25 right through the Rockland mine, and with some of the more recent drilling, that's by Remarco. Those holes were drilled by Remarco. Look at some of the numbers they got there. You've got 20 feet of 5 grams. Can't clearly see if that's a 10 or 18 feet of almost 9 grams. But it's these broad intercepts. There's 195 feet here, top left, of over a gram. Some of that material may simply be open pittable, but what's great about it is look at the stockwork that's in those holes, right? So you're getting these broad intercepts of bulk tonnage encompassing these genuinely high grades. And so there's a lot of potential here, even at the historical Rockland mine, both along strike and below it. But we think the Rockland mine actually represents the lower level in the system, and much of the top was eroded away. Whereas Rockland East, which appears to be bigger in scale based on that footprint of the zone than the old mine, Rockland East is the whole system is preserved, we believe. So this image, it shows you this real substance here. This is Rockland East, and that leapfrog image we modeled up, that actually models the results of the historical drilling. And that is really the zone I was talking about that's in place based on the historical drilling. It's a big zone. Now that's not sitting right on surface as Golden Lion is sitting right on surface. This is down a bit, but again, what we're looking for really is that really high grade juice that's presumably there below that, never drilled. So, yeah, it's exciting. So it's very real. Golden Lion and Rockland, we have two big gold zones drilled there. That's the substance in this company right now. It's not a hope machine. Yes, there's hope left in terms of what's coming next, but we're kind of more advanced. It's not pure grassroots, right? We can show people that we've got a lot of gold in these systems that we and others have drilled. Now it's a question of what's the near-term upside, and there could be very significant near-term upside right this season from these particular properties.
So, Kevin, I think a natural question would be, this property has been drilled before. What do you think the previous operators missed or maybe didn't do right or didn't do systematically enough to have really got at the juice that you're looking for? Like, what are you seeing that you think they kind of missed?
I think you have to firstly view the work that was done in the context of the time in which it was done. Like BHP did a lot of this work here back in the 80s, right, when the gold price was really weakening. It was super strong at the beginning, and then it really dropped off to, I think it got as low as $250 in the early 90s. I can tell you that more recently, players on this property like B2Gold, they had specific objectives in mind. For example, at the Rockland mine, they were on the west side, they were looking for something low grade that they could mine right on surface. And unfortunately, I don't know the workings of the inside of the company there, but they did walk away, as many of them do, limited budget. We clearly see upside potential here. And I would say that many of the previous operators were not, in fact, very systematic about it. Especially B2, for example. If you go in with a narrow focus, you go in, you do that, you don't get the results you might want, you walk away, right? But in our case, what we're doing right now, one of the very nice things about Rockland is that we have we've got all the historical data, so we're busy modeling that, starting that effort, modeling it, interpreting it in a way that they've not done. And this is some of what's coming from that. So it can give us confidence in the scale of what we've got and really where we need to go to find better. So, yeah.
Okay. In the news release, I believe you mentioned you were going to be doing mapping, airborne magnetics, IP, some soil geochemistry work. When would you expect all those activities to start and sort of complete?
It's really started now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and that'll take months to do, just pulling it all together. So we'll do our homework first, put it all together. But something, of course, that's attractive about this property is that we can work it at a time of year when we can't work our other properties. That's, as I think I emphasized before, is not why we took it on. We take these properties on first and foremost for the potential to really generate terrific results that are helpful to shareholders. But that is a significant plus as well. In fact, it's a drive-on property. You can drive all over it. It can be worked all year round. And so the costs involved here of doing this work will be relatively low compared to the costs of doing similar work in northern British Columbia, for example.
Okay. So on the note of cost, obviously doing work on this property will consume capital, and maybe we can bring up, the market seems to know that Evergold needs money. The stock price is kind of flat. It seems to be in a trading range around, say, mid-20s. When it comes to how are you going to manage it? Like, it's always nice to have options, but how are you going to manage things on the capital side with respect to, Snoball, Golden Lion, and now Rockland? I
think it's no surprise to those who understand that junior end of the business, right? We're capital pools. We don't generate money. We don't have sales or revenues. We never will have. What we try to offer our shareholders, John, are capital gains opportunities, and that's really what they're looking for, most of them, right? And to do that, the best way of doing it is delivering great results from the drill, but we can't do that unless we've got money. And it's always an uncertain process of building these little companies because there's just so much you just don't know or can't plan for properly. Of course, firstly, the geology and what it's going to give you or not, and when it's going to give it to you, if ever, or not. And then there's the market side where the instability and uncertainty of being able to access capital when you need it on the right terms, it's complicated. But the bottom line is you need money to do work or you're dead. These companies, if you don't have money and you don't have good prospects and people who know how to deploy it, then you are dead. So at the minute, and we went through our cycle last year. I would have hoped to have been able to finance last year. You saw in the fall, we were trying to finance even in the summer at higher prices. We were knocked last year in part because of this assay problem. Like the timing was bad. We just couldn't get assays. As you know, we still don't have all of our assays. Even for Snowball, we don't have all our assays. I mean, this is crazy. It'll be February before we have some of our remaining work from Snowball. We have to talk about that in a second. So if shareholders want us to basically deliver capital gains, we've got to have the money to do it. And we can't always raise it at the prices we want. I think I've been fairly open with the market since last fall. They can look at our books. They see we're in a weak financial position. We have been, but there was a reason for it. We told them we'd just wait. We will finance again. And I'll tell you honestly, we won't have problems raising additional money. We have a lot of substance in this company, and the astute players out there will see that very quickly. Given what's going on elsewhere, there are a lot of high-flying companies that have less than we've got. I'm talking about early-stage companies that are basically running up with less than what we've got. As I said, we've got these gold zones on surface, and we'll be able to finance. The question is simply on what terms. I would say people should be happy that we are able to raise money because it means that the company is alive and there's hope for what's to come this year. Here, let's say we're at 25 cents currently. Does that mean we just do nothing at all and wait? No, because we would not be able to do anything this year. And as I think I've tried to convey to people, we're really close, we think, to delivering results that are really meaningful from these targets of ours, especially from the two flagships, Snowball and Golden Lion. So financing we will do. We will obviously try for the best possible terms. We want to be well cashed up before the summer launches. And then we will try to really deliver the results that we didn't quite manage to get last summer. We'll try to do that this summer. And
do you have any offers that are in front of you, Kevin, that you're considering in terms of financing?
All I can say, John, is that there's interest in this company. There has been all fall long. I've had calls, not calls that I initiated, even from Europe, from funds, etc. But that's kind of par for the course. There's a lot of money fishing for opportunities out there. When the time is right, we'll certainly circle around with some of the outfits that have expressed an interest. And I always like to offer the opportunity as well to current shareholders. And as you know, I think I mentioned it in my other presentations. I put in money myself recently, $120,000. And I really think we've got a great story here, a great team, and we're on the cusp of something good.
Yeah, in our last interview, Kevin, you mentioned you were going to do that, and then you went and actually did it. I think it's obviously speaks a lot about your confidence in the project. It's not just empty words coming out of your mouth. You actually believe that you're on the cusp of hitting something really good at Snoball, Golden Lion, or both. So it's always a good sign.
So we should have a quick chat there, John, about Snoball.
Sure.
Yeah. Because I think you've got some slides up there, do you not? We advance over to, let's go back here.
Something like,
I'm looking for the plan view. No, it's, well, let me, while we're chatting here, the opportunity at Golden Lion. Okay, let's focus on this slide for the time being. Slide 11, photo here of Pyramid Peak. As the market knows, we spent all of last season drilling from that little pad right on top of the peak up there.
Right.
And we did that because we didn't really have a clue where all the gold and silver up here was coming from. Like, the rock is so weathered, you can't tell when you're standing on it. It's even hard to tell what the rock is, so weathered. But there is very strong gold in soil and various other elements in soil here, including a high, I think the highest we ever got was over 25 grams in the soil. Now, it's not soil, it's more like a kind of talus fine, but it is pretty powdery up there too. So anyway, be that as it may, we achieved our discovery on Pyramid Peak, drilling mostly in the direction of that dashed white line, right, which is to the southwest. We drilled multiple azimuths, but funny enough, even on our first hole, we could see arsenopyrite, and that gets us excited. As with all of these stories, you go in with a plan, you start to unfold it, and while you're unfolding the plan, you usually do additional work, and sometimes there's flying by the seat of your pants involved, where you'll see something that sort of takes you off in that direction because you got to do it. It's kind of opportunistic. We saw late in the season down here, circled by this dashed red ellipse here, outcropping, kind of not really outcropping, but hints of it. We subsequently excavated very attractive looking high grade arsenopyrite veins in subcrop. So this actually all unfolded kind of in September after we had finished drilling here. This was around September 5 to 10 especially. We sampled the heck out of the area around it, and it's bigger than what I can show you right on this image. There's a better one floating around. But what's exciting is, and what we were really fishing for from up here last year, was something with substantial widths and grade. And what we found down here, and we don't have any of these assays back, I can't tell you or even throw out figures other than to say we did our work using XRF and also by visual, of course. We can tell when we see something that's a vein that's 1.5 meters wide and it's trending 15 meters and disappearing into the hillside. I mean, we know that that's going to carry strong numbers, whatever they ultimately are. What we have that here, but we also, very interestingly, appear to have arsenopyrite down here that's actually disseminated through the rock. So it's not just focused in a vein. The arsenopyrite would indicate, if you have a lot of it, that you're also going to get high grades of gold and silver on this property. That's the way it works. But if you see disseminated arsenopyrite through broader masses of the rock, that's highly interesting and exciting, because suddenly you've got the potential for much broader widths, much along strike and across. You've suddenly got a target that's got scale potential. You know, it's lovely to have narrow, high-grade veins, but as the market saw last summer when we delivered some of those narrow intercepts, you can't really make a mine out of a tiny, narrow intercept. You need the volume. And it appears that might be right down here. It's kind of where Snowball Ridge, which goes off to the left, meets Pyramid Peak. It could well be that that's the zone we're looking for, i.e. the kind of sweet spot in this deposit. Now, this is really up high too, right? It's really on the top. That's right on the top of the ridge. We're up high in the system. We know from the Noranda work that they did 500 meters south and a lot lower. We know there's veins way down there into the south. So this system is big. And if this happens to be the core of the system up around Pyramid Peak, we could be into a system that we could follow all the way down, hundreds of meters, with the drill, because we can drill from the slopes in quite an advantageous way. That's one thing about a precipitous property like this. If you get into a rich system up high and the slopes are configured the right way, you can march down the slopes with the drill pads, and you don't actually have to drill the kind of terrific depths that you would if it was flat terrain.
Right.
You know? So, and by the way, from a mining perspective, if it were ever to advance to something like that, and that's really our ultimate objective, is to find discoveries that could become mines. If we were to prove a nice high-grade system here that looked mineable, to its advantage, certainly the topography could work to its advantage, because again, you're not talking about a need for a shaft here. You could simply add it in from the mountainside, and that's very much more cost-effective. So we're excited about that. And if you ask me, you know, where is the next round of drilling going to go? It's going to go right into that. And we're going to drill differently from the direction we did last year. We're not going to drill as per the white dashed line, northeast, southwest. We'll be drilling actually southeast, northwest, and northwest, southeast. We'll kind of come at it both ways like that, because we see evidence of different orientations to these veins, and it'll also allow us to hit the disseminated style, which encompasses it. So okay, that's exciting. That so there you have. We have three ponies in this corral, you know, and that could be very meaningful to shareholders this year. So the system you'll probably end up drilling first, I'm assuming, would be Golden Lion, because it's more accessible. Like, is that correct, Kevin? Yes, we'll start with Golden Lion because, as you know, we already have a camp there. So it's another big advantage this year that we did not have last year. We had to build that camp. We jump off from Benchmark's lawyer's property. And, you know, it cost us a lot of money to fly in that equipment, get the camp built. That's all there in place now, ready to go. So it's a big, major chunk of outlay we don't need to worry about there. So we'll get going there first. The Snowball, as we saw this year, the best weather at Snowball is always August. July can be pretty good too, but actually it's August. And even the first half of September can be very best up there. And it's also when most of the snow is melted. It's quite a high property, right? So we will get going, I think, at Snowball, probably it'll be mid-July, something like that. This year we tried to get going around, I think it was the 20th of July, but we will stage the programs rather than running them, you know, concurrently. Yeah, so Golden Lion then early June? Or is that too early? Yeah, I would think, again, we had a lot of snow up there. We should be able to get going there around the 10th to 15th for sure. this year, but it will get underway much faster because we got going up there. I think we started on the 12th of June to just get the guys up and everything. But we didn't even at the camp finish till July 10th. So almost a month later, right? By the time we actually get the camp done, the guys should be able to move in there into the camp, get the camp set up and operating like quickly. And so we should be able to be drilling quickly too. So cross your fingers that the weather is better this year too, because it was really, really bad last year in this part of the world, especially on Snowball. But this year, I might add another thing. As far as operating there, we may build a little camp right at the foot of Pyramid Peak here, actually down at Snowball Pond.
Yeah.
And that would, I think, would help our productivity a lot, because inability to fly last year was a big issue with the helicopter pilots because of this peak here being fogged in, even when the rest of the country wasn't. So being below it, able to jump up and back quickly when you have the opportunity will help a lot. And the location of these pads will also help, because they'll be in a more open spot, not at the peak, but down several hundred meters, right? So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, exciting. Looking forward to seeing what you guys can drill this year. Definitely have lots of targets, and it'll be June before you know it. It's only January now, but it'll be June before you know it. So it'll come quick.
It will. That's right. We're at the end of January already. So I think people should, in terms of our share price and all, we're really well positioned right now, John. And I think, again, I'd emphasize we're in the business of delivering capital gains opportunities through the drill bit. And the question of dilution, share price, having to raise more money, I don't like to dilute. Nobody likes to dilute. I'm diluting myself. But we do need to have money to work, and we can't always get it at high prices. The market being fickle. But again, people need to understand that we need the money to really add the value. And I think Evergold's still got a pretty decent capital structure. I've seen companies, if you go out to Australia, they come to market with these god-awful number of shares outright. That's not us by any means. So again, I really hope to get this stock well north of $1, $2 this summer, if we can really deliver some gangbuster results out of these properties. And I think that potential is very real.
Well, all you need to do these days, it seems, just give the Wall Street Bets guys a call, and they'll push your stock up. All right. Well, hey, Kevin, always great to catch up. I appreciate the time today. I learn something new every time I talk to you. So again, yeah, always good to chat, and we'll be in touch. We'll have you on again in the not too distant future, I'm sure. Okay, John. Well, thanks for the interest as always. Take care now. Yeah, you as well. Take care. Bye now.